Hello and welcome back to Vision on TV here at the dotActivist conference. And this afternoon we've got Pietro, who's one of the speakers today. Pietro, what were you talking about?
I was speaking about e-government and speaking about how can democracy change because of the new technologies that are being discovered and implemented all around the world.
Okay, and what?
Well, there's a lot of research that is going on right now, and there's a lot of trends that are going on. Essentially, everybody realizes that the way in which democracy have been done in the past, it's probably going to change, but nobody really realizes how it's going to change, and so we are kind of trying things out and testing them and so on.
Now, there's a lot of talk amongst the powerful, certainly, amongst the elected. They're very concerned that young people, for instance, are just not interested in pursuing, in participating in the democratic structures as they are. Why do you think that's a technological problem, or is it more a social?
Well, it's really a much more complex issue, because you have it's a game that is played with various forces arriving and playing a different side. So, for example, I am part of a group which is called the Meta Government, which really is trying to and it started as a group of people trying to set up a system where that would self-govern itself and that people could use for other communities. So, for example, a chess club could actually use it and so on. And eventually it became a hub of other groups that were pursuing the similar objective. By the way, English is not my first language, so my accent might be a little bit
you're absolutely clear.
Okay. Just let me continue. So when Meta Government started, we were expecting everything to be really, really slow, and we were kind of taking our time and discussing things really, really slowly. And then the Obama administration arrived, and suddenly people were speaking about e-government all over, and they want. So it's really weird, because it's like you have a long period in which everything does not seem to move, and then when the right, correct stars are in place, everything seems to change a lot, and then things stops again. Well, coming from biology, I would say it's like punctuated equilibrium. You have a long period of stasis and then a big jump.
Okay, so that's exciting times for you then, because we're in a big jump stage, right? Now, one of the things which interests a lot of the people that we work with is alternative forms of democracy. That's to say, were parallel or direct democracy. How are those enhanced by the use of e-technology?
Well, first of all, we need to really understand. We have to make one step back. First of all, what does democracy mean? The term democracy comes from Greek and means rule of the people. Now, how is this rule being implemented? That is not part of the definition, except that normally we assume this to be through voting. But that's only one way in which people can reach a conclusion, can reach a decision. They can just meet in a square, discuss, and find a way that they all agree. So you could say that this is still through voting, but in a sense the discussion was the actual democratic process that produced that result. Now,
and everybody has an equal participation in that form.
Yeah, the point is everybody has a way to participate. Now, the fact about equal participation is another interesting issue, and we are going to speak about in a second. Now, first of all, let me speak a little bit about direct democracy. You mentioned direct democracy, and I like to speak about participative democracy. Now, what's the difference? People that speak about direct democracy, they think about everybody voting on every issue. Now, what's the problem with this one is that a lot of people would be voting on issues on which they don't know nothing. And in a society where between 20 to 40% of the people think that the sun goes around the earth, and we are describing right now society in Europe and the US, 20 to 40% depends on what nation, but this is there. You can see that there is a reason why people are kind of worried if everybody is just voting.
Okay, so tell us about participatory democracy.
No. Just let me follow follow up. But when you are actually taking direct democracy inside an internet context, now the game is completely different. Because in a direct democracy, in a big square, the person who have the louder vote or who is like more charismatic is able to speak and just get everybody to follow him, and then you have some sort of dictatorship just from this person. Why a lot of people don't like democracy. Now, whereas on the internet, if you don't like what a particular person is doing, they can not only speak back, but they can organize between them, because the internet permits searches in a way that a normal square would not permit. So in a sense, it's like you're playing on a different physics, where people can communicate much better. And now with this different physics, we just don't know what kind of democracy can we implement. And that's where the search comes in.
Now, I'm very familiar, because I spent time in Brazil and Latin America, I'm very familiar with models of participatory democracy on a non-virtual level. Yeah, like, I mean, where they're rolling it out big time now in Venezuela, for instance. How does that work on the net?
We are just trying to find a completely different model. Sense. I mean, we look at those models and we see how in those models, because you have a common people taking decision and then the representatives just signing out those decisions.
So is it massively, sorry, I should say the participatory democracy is working in countries like Venezuela is this massive devolution of power. Yes. Yeah. So if something only affects your local area, the local people decide on it. It's not decided by the national government or the provincial government.
But then you still have the representative people who sign the representatives who sign those laws, and they say yes, we're gonna pass those laws. And if they don't sign it, then later on at the next election they're actually risking. And people at those, I mean, those are all things that have to be said. People that are participating in those decisions, they're not normally allowed to stay to participate in too many decisions. So they're like, they only can participate like for 2 years, and then so it's like once in a lifetime.
How does that work on the net? You say you're exploring models.
Okay, now on the net we are really looking at different kind of models. We have two threads that are coming over here. To look at the different kind of models that are being generated, and one is to look at what government are doing right now. So what government are doing is to try to take those mixed solution, not really finished, and try to apply them to get ideas. And we have seen this in the UK, for example, with petitions online. I don't remember exactly the website. It might be petitions online, but I'm not really sure, where people can just write petition and then they can vote on each other petition, and then if they tend to have people, but there is no threshold, so the government up the most popular one, but they kind of pick and choose which one they also want, and they choose to either accept them or more commonly not to accept them, but to explain why. So there was, I remember a famous one that was about let's legalize marijuana, and it had thousands of people signing it, and the government responded no, and then it presented all sorts of medical facts about damage that marijuana could actually do, and so on. So it's a way to get a response from the government, but it's never a way to actually implement something in society directly. You just can get the government to answer to you, or if you're lucky to follow up, but you don't get any direct power in any way. And in a sense, maybe it's good because all those systems are ready. We are still. So this is one track. Okay. Now the track is what are all those big we are trying, and there are thousands of them all over, and it's really interesting to look at them and look at what are the common threads through them. And
can you give us one example?
Wikipedia. It's just the simplest one.
And a great example.
Sorry?
And a great example.
And a great example. Another one, YouTube. YouTube made, there was a program where through YouTube, Obama asked people to ask him some question. So everybody could could make a video, people would vote on each other video, and the 10 most popular questions that were voted by the people were the one to which Obama answered. And so this is a great first step. It's going in the right direction. Another one, White House 2. Now, White House 2 is a website, whitehouse2.org, I think. It's a website which is not directly connected with the White House. It's still connected with it's not connected with the administration. And they ask what should be the priorities of the government. And then, and people can suggest the priorities, they can vote on each other's priorities, but, and here is the important thing, they can modify what other people have written. So it's somewhere in between the YouTube version that I said, where people can just vote, and the Wikipedia version, where people can modify and put them together.
Right, wikis are a very progressive model in that sense, aren't they?
Wiki are progressive model, but they have no voting. They have no voting inside. So in a sense, you need to have something where multiple people.
So you need to combine the two.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, Pietro, we could talk about this all afternoon. We've just touched the surface of the subject.
You really should pay attention in asking me questions.
Yeah,
I can really speak about it for a long time.
Absolutely.
You might not be
absolutely. No, it's absolutely fascinating. The speakers have started again downstairs in the conference, and the discussion is going on. We're going to return to dotActivist, and we'll be back with you shortly.
I would like to speak about my